Huh? Yeah. Uh, could you recall the feeling you had yesterday when you finished? Just close your eyes and see whether you can recall the feeling. You can lie on your back and see, you remember how it was on the floor, which parts touched properly and which didn't. You can do it sitting, you can do it in any way, but it depends what you want to recall. Now, I have some minor things to tell you, but which I think of the greatest importance. Some people write notes here while I talk. It is a bad habit, a bad university habit, college habit, high school habit. It means that you don't listen and you don't rely on yourself like we all do in all schools. In France it seems worse than in America because in France you're compelled to write what the teacher says. And that was obviously some genius idea in the Middle Ages. Somebody found that when he obliged the people to write what the teacher says, the children had no time to play with each other, had no time to look through the window, had no time to do anything, because they had to present a copybook in which everything the teacher said was written down. So now they have learned actually to do that and think of anything else. So the writing is idiotic and anything else is interfered with that, just like we do now with the television or the radio. You wash the dishes and somebody bubbles away there and talks God knows what and nobody listens anyway. It's just making a background noise of interfering with life. And children prepare their schoolwork with the television. And there's nothing to see on the television because the television knows that you don't look at it. And therefore they sell the time for money anyway. The important thing is that when you write here while I talk, you write what you understand now with your background, what I said. You would find that when you read it again after the lesson, it will look idiotic to you. Because you will understand, with increased sensitivity, with reorganized self, you will find that what you understood was just concerning your previous training and your previous understanding. Therefore, it actually interferes with your learning. You take part of your attention to write what you remembered. When you read it again, you will remember what you remembered before the learning that came here. Now, so please don't write anything. But then you say the habit of writing is so great that if you haven't written, and by the way, you imagine in some places I teach 4 years running, if they write it down, they have 10,000 pages, which they will never read again. Huh? So it's wasted from one end to the other. But then it is important to recall and know and understand what's being done, especially if it's effective. There is one extraordinary good way, and that is while you do it and while you think something which I say which is against your principles, or something which is, look, it can't be right, he doesn't know what he's talking. Or the other way around, you think, that's a curious way of seeing things, I never thought of that. If you think that way, and while you have that thought, you think, do I have a friend at home, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, just a friend to whom you will tell it. And when you find something interesting that you have learned, and you think of telling it, and actually come home and find somebody and tell her, look, yesterday we did a funny sort of thing, making with the hand like that, and it makes a difference. You are able to lift yourself then from the floor, which was extremely difficult to begin with. So, what do you think of that? Now, if you tell that, you remember the thing for the rest of your life. Then there's another way of doing it, is when it's finished, when I give you the 10 minutes or the 5 minutes break, then write what you remember you learned during the lesson. The things that you think are important to you to write. Then you will write after I've experienced something, and you write it in a way which has a meaning to you after, not before, not while, which interferes both with the learning and the writing. And moreover, if you do the writing after the lesson, find somebody else who does the writing while you do it, and get together 3 or 4 or 5, and you will see something which will be an extraordinary lesson for you. What you thought was interesting in the lesson, you won't find that all the 5 people. Each one found something else. And then you will see that by doing that, you would enlarge your horizon of understanding. You would find actually that normally we are such slaves of habit that doesn't matter what we learn, we write the same bloody thing on the paper. And when you see that other people have another sense, and then you look, and suddenly you find that what the other person wrote was more important than what you wrote. And then you see the third one, the fourth, and all the 5 of you find that what the other wrote was more interesting. Then you find that you got out after you had 2 experiences like that. You see that you open your ears and your eyes and your nose to feel and hear and sense, and your kinesthetic sense, you will learn infinitely better and easier and recall it forever without writing it down on pieces of paper which nobody looks at anyway. Now that advice is worth $1 million. Collect it. Then there's another thing. Another thing we mentioned yesterday, process. Did you think of that? How would you make a concrete thing of a process? Actually, we're doing it now. We're talking. It's a process. It's life. But how would you show concretely, in action, the difference between being, what's that? Somebody throws me a light in my eyes. I can't interfering with me. Could you take it away? What's that? Is it a mirror there? What do you have? No, it's so intense that it is either a photographer or something, a mirror. It doesn't matter. I'll move away. To be good in anything, to be good, to be a good lover, to be the good skier, to be a good accountant, to be a good driver, to be a good wife, a good husband, a good anything, is a static sort of thing. It's good or bad. It's a bad chair. I told you that yesterday, the example. By the way, you will find that I will be extremely difficult for you, which I think is being really honest. You see, I recall that I said a bad chair and a good chair. How many of you did remember that? You see? It's terrible. So many people. and only 5 or 6 remember that the example of a chair. So you didn't write it down in your papers. You should have read it at home and know that I gave an example of a chair, bad chair and good chair. Can you see how idiotic that is? How the habit of writing on pieces of paper whatever somebody says, it makes no sense. And actually, it betrays the lack of confidence in the person that he has listened, understood, and got it. He writes down because he wants at home to repeat it, to see again. Maybe he will forget it. He knows that it is no good. Now, we want to eradicate that feeling of being no good. Because you can't take it away, but you can give instead of it a feeling of being good. And when you have that feeling, how will you get it if you don't prove to yourself that you're good? Now, I'm there to help you to do that. Therefore, I advise you not to write the pieces of paper. So now you're back to the chair, good chair, bad chair. Now, in a process, if you are good, you're good forever. It's not a process anymore, it's a thing, it's there. This is a big hole, it's good forever like that. It won't become smaller tomorrow, won't become bigger, can be destroyed or improved by doing something, decorating it anew or something. But it is the same thing, it's not a process. During the change, you can say a process of change takes place. But in human beings, if you are good, you're stationary, just like the hole is big. If you are bad, you're stationary. I believe actually it is an idiotic idea which is introduced in our language because people were for centuries idiots. They made it like that. It's nonsense. There was many of you may know, a Polish genius, Korzybski, and he showed the time binding, and he's shown that it is nonsense to think like that. Actually, he lived in America, and general semantics is now a word accepted in every university and every society. We don't even think of Korzybski anymore. And he made a difference between time binding, that human, in fact, every one of us, he said you can't be considered for a moment to be the same person. Because you are like you are here at the course and you hear things and understand and may so alter your way of doing that nobody would recognize you at all. Say, what do you mean? Look how you stand. You always have your head like that? Why do you stand up so straight? So that's the change. And he says the changes like that go on all the time and you can't do anything, you can't talk. That life is a process. Now, by the way, and I want to show you that. But he has a kind of method he puts on the ceiling, something with nails, with keys, and show you that one thing depends on the other, but there's never a thing which is independent. I do that in a funny way, you will see, in such a simple way that it's difficult to grasp. But it's so easy that it's actually incredible that you have to make all sorts of things to make people feel that, and feel is not important, by benefit by it. Now, what do you think if instead of saying we are good, we are going to think that we are going to be better? Now, if you're good, you stay good forever. But if you're better, you can go on developing until you are the best. Therefore, this is a time-binding attitude. It means you are related to yourself in such a way that it's not important you are better by 1/100%. Better in what way? Then we will define that. It's not a question of static better. It's of acting, organizing yourself better. Better to your feeling means in your makeup, in the direction of your person. See? If you do that, then you find you have improved, say in that lesson, 1/10%. That means in 1,000 lessons like that, you are 100%, which there's nobody in the world who is 100%. Even not Leonardo da Vinci, which was certainly one of the most endowed human beings the world has ever known. Now, but suppose you improve by 1%, that means in 100 lessons you are the greatest, the most complete, the most perfect human being existing, or ever existed, because nobody existed who was 100% until today. And I don't believe there will be one, because that's ideal. And the word ideal says that it is impossible to be. It's not reality, it's ideal. It's something which doesn't exist. Now, we want to exist, therefore, we must be something between nothing and that idea, but never the idea. Because once you reach the idea, you have finished life. You're not improving anymore, you're static. It's a process. And so long as we are alive, we must get better, doesn't matter how much. If we got the idea that by the way, you think it's such a silly idea? I found myself incredibly surprised. You know, when I was a young man, I was impressed by Coué. Do you know the name? Coué, autosuggestion. Coué, there was a French pharmacist who actually learned in Paris at Charcot's hospital together with Freud. They were together in the same place, seeing the same hysterical treatment of Charcot with hypnosis. And Freud returned home and did hypnosis to begin with, and found that it didn't work as well as it did, and developed his psychoanalysis. And Coué came home and developed his idea of autosuggestion. Now, when I was a young man, I was impressed with it, and I wrote a little book and translated actually Coué's book into Hebrew. And recently, we made a foundation, and I have Robert Muller is member of the foundation, of the directorate, and he's the Director General of the United Nations for the last 16 years. He does all the agencies are under his rule. In fact, he's the most important part of the United Nations, because secretaries change every 4 years. But he runs the place. They couldn't do it without him. A new secretary, if he doesn't introduce them, they wouldn't know what to do. And I found, to my astonishment, that he, all his life, he ascribes his cheerfulness and everything he has achieved to Coué. Because, and he tells some very funny stories, he wrote a book about it too. He showed that in his life, Coué's idea made him, because he was in dangerous situations during the war, and it dawned on him, the idea of Coué's, and we'll say that, actually I will say what it is. And he told me that. And then I realized that between my book and his story passed about 45 years. I realized that I was thinking on that way, and I really don't know now whether it's not due to what I wrote as a young man about Coué, what I'm telling you now about the process. Coué said, day by day I'm getting better and better. That's the whole treatment. That when you go to bed and when you get up and when you are in twilight of your conscience like that, you tell yourself, day by day I'm going, just like you say the prayer if you are Catholic or a Jew will say Krishna. And then they say, day by day, I'm going better and better. He doesn't say I'm good, I'm clever, I'm getting cleverer, I'm getting gentler, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting everything I need or I want. By day, I'm getting better and better. Now that's a process. That's an attitude which is improving, because if you get better, you can get even better than better and better than better and better than better. The sky is the limit, and the best in the world is the next limit, which is not an ideal to strive at. Because if everybody will be the best in the world, what will be the world? There can't be more than one best in the world in anything. Therefore, all of us must take a place somewhere between the best and the nil. And every place like that is actually our place. And we should defend it and keep it, but try to be better in our place. So that's the process. How do we do that? Yesterday we learned the process of how to learn to do a difficult thing easily. And many of you achieved that more wonderfully well. All right, would you please now lie on your right side? Lie on your right side. Do you mind if I take record? No, I mind and I don't allow it. Not because I have anything against recording, but because of the same thing and because of my recording. Same thing. I cannot allow recording. If you want a little bit to record my voice or think for memory, please. But record the lessons, no, because we are concerned with people who published my lessons and published my cassettes and published that, and therefore once it is published, it cannot be patented or recorded or being copyright. It must be first copyright, and then you have no right to use it anyway, except at home. So there's no point in doing it. That's all right. But occasionally, if you want to record something, a part of it, I don't mind. But not continuous recording, that can't be done. So you lie on the right side like that. You put your left hand on the floor in front of your chest, but comfortably. And see, you could turn your fingers one way and the other, but you will see, by the way, you please, your hand is standing like that you would sprain your thumb if you really, no. Don't obey me. Find a place where it doesn't break the thumb. That's right. Can you see my answers? I never say this is wrong, except by bringing you to the state where you look and admit that you're doing something which is not good for you, and you find a solution. I don't know whether you realize how different that is from other teaching. I say, look, that's how it should be correct. To me, correct is only if you know what you're doing for your own good. If you don't know what you're doing, then whatever you do is wrong, even if you do it the way I like it. Because you don't know what you're doing, how can you correct it? How can you improve it? If you don't know you're doing it, how can you improve it? Never. Therefore, would you please bend your legs and put your right leg, your right knee in front of the other. Sorry, the left knee in front of the other. My fault. The left knee in front of the other, but comfortably. And now do the following thing. Lift your left knee off the floor a tiny little bit and back again. Tiny little bit and back again. Many times. Now note, how do we lift our knee? How? Can you see it has nothing to do with the knee itself? We lift our knee by doing something completely different. Now what do we do? A hip joint is only a joint, and that means an idiotic piece of bone surrounded with muscles that can only ache or not ache and be blue and be stiff, everything. It's not with that that we lift the hip either. How do we lift the hip? You rotate the pelvis. With what do you rotate your pelvis? I want you to go to know what you're doing. How? Now, therefore, don't answer me. Just listen to yourself. You know already now that you're actually twisting your spine to do that. Actually, do you use your left hand on the floor? Some do. He did. He did. Now, if you do that, now believe it or not, even such a simple thing as lifting the knee can be done at least in half a dozen ways. And if you look at the people around you, you can see that some do it one way, some do it the other. Some do the movement by actually doing nothing with the foot, leaving the foot on the floor, and leave the foot on the floor, because we are lifting the knee only. We don't lift the foot, not the leg, the knee, in order to be able to tell all the paraphernalia about it. So you lift the knee. Now you're pushing the knee forward, you're not lifting it. You're pushing the knee forward, you're not lifting it. Lifting means just one thing, go near to the ceiling. All right, now would you please put your left hand in such a way that your forearm and the elbow lie on the floor in the position in which you have put it. Put the hand on the floor, the palm on the floor, approximately the way you did. Would you kindly find another place that's supposed to be a passage so that I can go and visit some people if I find it necessary. Now stop the knee, and the elbow must be on the floor, and the hand, everything in the forearm. That's right. Now lift the elbow off the floor. Lift the elbow. Now, how do you do that? You lift the elbow off the floor. Now, again, here the elbow, you can lift it also in half a dozen ways. You will see that's extraordinarily important, that it can be done in so many ways. Can you feel now the head rotates a little bit, and the shoulder blade rotates, and the spine rotates? And which part begins? Where does it begin? No. Where does the rotation begin? You will see it begins in the back, in the lumbar region somewhere. That rotates the chest a little bit, and the spine a little bit, and the head a little bit. And of course, therefore, the shoulder blade can move a little bit better. Now put your elbow on the floor again, as it is, and now lift the middle, the wrist, not the fingers, not the elbow, no, the middle of the wrist, not the fingers. I said not the fingers. Lift the wrist. And you see what a funny, difficult movement that is. Yet it is insignificant. Yeah, slowly lift the wrist like that. Many times, not the fingers. Don't press the floor with the fingers. Just lift the wrist. Slowly lift the wrist while you lie like that on the floor. Not the elbow, not the fingers, only the wrist. Lift the wrist many times. Now watch that by lifting the wrist, most people will hold their breath much more than by doing the lifting the knee. And many, you see somebody's laughing because she caught herself doing it actually. Now, if the elbow is not on the floor, you can't lift the wrist only. If the elbow is not on the floor, that's right. See whether you can think of that, stop doing anything, see how you breathe when you do nothing, and now lift the wrist without making any major alteration in your breath. Right, now lift the fingers instead of the wrist. The fingers with the wrist. The fingers with the wrist. And you see that's how simple a movement, yet, yeah, make it easy, make it comfortable. You will see many people cannot stretch. No, you lift also the wrist. No, not the forearm, only the finger. Not the forearm. The finger, not the forearm. You lift the fingers and the wrist, but not. No, you're lifting the forearm. No, lift the wrist. Lift the wrist. No, you're lifting the forearm. No. Now lift the fingers and not the forearm. In other words, the end of the forearm should press against the floor, not without intentionally doing that, but that remains on the floor and the wrist goes up. All right. Now, would you please lift the forearm, the wrist, and the fingers as they are, not move them away, where they are. Lift them all together, the elbow too. But lift the whole thing simultaneously. The elbow, see, doesn't go. The elbow. In other words, you must lie in some way where it's possible to lift the elbow. That's right. And breathe freely again. Don't stop breathing. Now, very, very slowly, see whether you can simultaneously, you know what that means in English? It means exactly the same time. Lift the elbow, but pay attention. Don't try it before you know what you're doing and you organize yourself so that you can do it. Don't attempt to do something without knowing how to do it. Otherwise, there's no point coming here, isn't it? Slowly lift the knee and the elbow together simultaneously. Slowly. If you do it now, you're knocking about like you did all your life. It's not simultaneous. Put it back and you'll see. You touch with the knee first and the elbow afterwards. Therefore, you did lift actually the elbow first. You can't cheat me. You can cheat only yourself. The elbow and the whole thing, the elbow with the hand and everything, simultaneously. All right. If you believe that you can do it as fast as that and you're doing it, you will see that you're holding your breath and you're looking at me and you're not doing it. And it's unimportant whether I tell you it's right or wrong. You should find whether it's right or wrong. Is it simultaneous? And in order to do it simultaneously, what do you have to do? No other way but rotating the entire torso back. If you rotate the torso back, it will lift simultaneously whether you want it or not. Yeah? Now you rotate the torso back, everything is going to be simultaneous. Now, you should have been able to discover that yourself, and many, many did. And because they did, it shows you that, as I told you, what I'm teaching, many feel, that I knew that, I always thought of that somehow, and it only comes to my conscious now. I become aware of what I could do, and now I could make it methodically and spread it all over my other actions to be as good as that, at least. That's enough. Would you just lie a second? Lie as you are, on your right side. And you will see, funnily enough, that there is a change in all the organization of the muscles of the whole body. In other words, there's a change of our entire self in the brain, in the motor cortex. There's some change of the distribution of tonus throughout the body. Watch and you'll feel your breathing and the way you lie, it dawns on you that something is happening from the toes to the head. And the face and the shoulder, the left shoulder, and the spine on the left, and actually the side on which we are lying to. Now remain like that. And now would you please lift the knee first and the elbow next. The knee first and the elbow next. The knee first and the elbow next. No, the knee first and the elbow next. And if you're in a hurry, stop doing it, because you will waste your time anyway. There's no merit in doing it 10 times a second instead of once a minute. Yeah? In once a minute, you will learn something that you will never learn if you do it 100 times in a minute. Go slowly and you will realize much more. And when we realize that much more and eliminate all the unnecessary trouble in mobilizing yourself, organizing yourself in action, we will go as fast and as powerfully as you ever saw a horse in Texas doing. Now would you please first lift the elbow and the hand and everything, and then the knee. Slowly, the whole thing leaving the floor together. The hand, the wrist, the fingers, and the elbow. That's right. And once this is lifted, lift it, and then lift the knee. And then you will see you can't do it unless your knee is at the right place. Why don't you bend your knee more? You want to make it difficult. Keep on making it difficult if you want to. But then if you make it difficult, it will be difficult all your life, as it was up to now. That's right. Now, as you lie like that, stop doing that, lie, and then just lift your head as it lies, doing nothing else. Lift it the head, a tiny little bit, because it is difficult and it will be painful to many of you. By the way, I promised you not to repeat, but I will. As I also said, it will happen. Those who have pain from before, anywhere in their body, or inability to perform what I'm advising you out to do, would you please do it gently and in as near to the thing as I'm saying, and do it once and stop and do again. Yesterday a lady came and told me she did that, and I thought she was a very intelligent lady, because she did it after hearing it once and preserved herself from trouble, and therefore she will improve beyond what she expects to be. And all the others will also improve if they take care of their own well-being. Now lift the head a little bit like that and lower it. Lift the head and lower it. And keep on now lifting the head together with the elbow, wrist, and hand together. Slowly. That's right. Now when you do that, you will feel which part must do something in order to do it. Doesn't matter how you do it, one part of yourself must get into action and do a lot of very hard work. Feel where it is. By the way, if you do it 12 or 15 times gently, even very gently, you will feel which place mobilizes. And especially those who have some trouble there will actually feel pain also. But don't go as far as that. Just lift and do it. Lift and do it. And stop. And make the smallest, the simplest movement. And somebody moved the hand behind him. It's a very clever idea because it makes it easier. But then it's not the same thing, and you wouldn't learn the same thing that other people learned. We said that changing nothing. As it is, lift the head. Now, keep on doing the same thing with the head and the elbow, and then leave it on the floor, and lift the knee now and the head together. The head and the knee. Now stop it and move now. Lift the knee and the elbow as we did before, simultaneously, and see the difference. Feel how different it is from before. Can you see? Our brains are so clever to learn that in the whole group, everybody now does it by rotating the body previously, so that the leg and the elbow, the knee and the elbow can be lifted. And you rotate also the head, and you rotate also the chest. And the legs, of course, are put in such a way that it is possible to do. In other words, you can see that the learning goes on faster than ever. Now, what sort of learning? It's not the kind of learning that we do by learning a poem by heart or learning anatomy, find which are the origin and insertions of muscles or the names of the bones, or any of the things or what we can learn in architecture about where windows should be placed in which climate, or any sort of thing like that. It's a kind of learning which has to do with a fundamental, elementary organization of ourselves for doing the smallest possible movement. In other words, that should have been learned by us very early in life, before the age of 3, and it should have been going on until now, improving. But instead of that, it was stopped, and until now we went on going down the drain, getting only older, stiffer, clumsier, and unable to organize yourself to do a thing easily and comfortably. But this is not quite true with everybody. There are many people who are not like that. And you will find that in our culture, the people who are not like that are the people who deal with their continuous body. What's idiotic? How can you use a body without yourself? Then using yourself to do something which the improvement of organization is the same as we do now here. In order to be a violinist like Jascha Heifetz, who can at the age of 80 play better than anybody else, you have to improve yourself, your skill, your appreciation, your sensitivity, your, what we said, your elegance. It means doing only that note which you really want and nothing else at one time. And beside that, you must have the kinesthetic, the feeling that you are doing it as well as you could. It means an aesthetic satisfaction in what you're doing. That happens now in our days only with sculptors, painters, actors, some scientists, and some ordinary people too. If it didn't happen, all humanity, by the way, you know that from the 4.5 billion people that are alive now, that will die within the next 60 years, of those, nobody will know anything 10 days after their death or 10 months after their death. Only those people who have actually kept on furthering their development of their self. As I told you, the painters, the sculptors, the actors, and all the ordinary people who do develop themselves, because you can be a housewife but do it in such a way that not another million housewives can keep the house like that, in that peaceful, extraordinary, loving atmosphere, which is a work of art. And people like that live long and are a credit to themselves, to their children, to everybody who meets them. But creative people, those who create our culture, those do what you are doing now all their life. And usually they have started early at childhood. I find that the great majority of people are ignorant of that and have never had the pleasure of furthering their own development like you're doing now. And therefore many of you will feel at the end of the lesson, extraordinary, look, I am actually becoming myself. And this happens with all the great people of our cultures. We call them great because they are unique human. They are really human, while we are subhuman. We accept everything people tell us for law. We don't allow ourselves to be ourselves. And as you see, here you have a chance of trying it out on yourself. You will see that it works. It works even a minute before dying. Would you please lie on your back now, slowly, and observe again. Wait a few seconds and feel, sense, note how you and the floor are in agreement, which part of yourself has organized itself a little better. Can you feel there's a difference, the way you lie, the way your head rolls to one side or the other, one elbow, one foot, and we will go now and see why did we pick this side and not the other side? What do we do with the other side? And why twice the right side? Would you just look through yourself from the heels to the top of the head, find out which parts can you feel that have sunk, lie flat, intimately with the floor in your entire self. Find which pelvis, which side of the pelvis, which side of the chest, which shoulder blade lies better. And what about the back of the knees? The back of the knees do not touch the floor, are not near to the floor, one and the other, not the same way. One of them is near. Now, watch yourself when you feel like that. Think. Look to the ceiling. And there your head, imagine that you put a stick in the middle of your foot. Don't change. Do it as you put. You change your head. Don't change. Not all of you, but some do. And this is important because it's a weakness of them. It's a weakness. He wants to be perfect to start with. He doesn't want to find himself lacking into something. And that is impossible to live like that. It's a life of strain which doesn't allow the person to do his best. It's not that he is not good for anybody else. For himself, he does not allow himself to get the best of himself. Therefore, he is actually appearing and doing something which is below his ability, below his real internal development. He lowers himself, keeps himself down by being prepared before he does it to be sure that he will do it well. In other words, he puts the chart before the horses. He wants to do it well before he knows what. You should be able to do wrongly. And by the way, you will see that real learning cannot be done without doing things wrongly. Cannot be done without errors. If you think a minute that Picasso was a very great painter and that today the Guernica picture, you wouldn't buy it for $50 million, you wouldn't get it. Huh? The Guernica picture. So, and when he was 25 years old, his pictures could be bought for a piece of meat on a plate. He didn't have what to eat in Montmartre. He had to work, and most of the pictures were useless. Nobody would buy them. So you see, if he didn't make the errors of his youth, painting the way he did at the beginning, and then getting a blue period and finding that that was nonsense for him, and then another one, and then all his life he did errors and correcting them and correcting them and correcting them until he became better and better and better. He started the process of being better and better, and every picture he was better than the other one, because the one he didn't like he tore away and threw it away and tried again until each time with a better understanding of what he really wants, until at the end he could paint like God himself couldn't paint better. If you saw some of the latest films, seeing him drawing what he can do with one movement of his hand or on a piece of cloth, is extraordinary, because he got better and better and better and better every time he thought about doing something. And there is no limit to that. Had he been living another 100 years, he would be even a greater painter. And he would make more mistakes. And by the way, just to put you in a good mood, because some of you are so serious now that it annoys me to look at you. Somebody went to see Picasso's exhibition and looked at it and found one eye was on the left side of the face and the other one was on the breast. And with the other picture, the one eye was on the back and the other one, God knows where. And the whole thing was crooked. So the man asked him, of course it was a Jewish connoisseur of art, and he looked at it and said, "Tell me, what's that? That's funny. He must have something wrong with his eyesight that he sees the." He says he paints the world as he sees it. Say, how can you see the world like that? Nobody sees it like that. Usually people have both eyes in the face in the same place. Say, well, that's the way he sees it. He said, well, if he has such a good eyesight, why did he become a painter? Should choose another job. Now, would you please remember, which way did you turn to stand up last time we did it? In yesterday evening. You did at the beginning the one you do naturally, so to speak, by habit. Then at the evening, I asked you to do that. By the way, can you see it's a funny sort of thing? I teach things and say them, and they look like if they are just talking. And yet I remember every word I told you yesterday. Much more than all of you together. And that shows you what you can do when you do a little bit better every day. So at the end of the day, we told you to turn on the way you didn't do before. So now it's again on the way which is habitual to you. Would you please roll on the way which is habitual to you? Stand up and see what it feels like. And repeat the same sort of thing as we did here. Look, only by sitting up you can already feel that the head is carried differently. By the way, I will have to do something about teaching you how to get up off the floor, because when I look here, I think it will take me another year to teach you to get up off the floor in a human way. You're getting up like... don't record it like old skunks, all of you together. The young ones and the old ones. It's getting up in a way which is a shame for humanity. That's not the way you get up. But we will do that. You will get up like human beings. And you will see it's an extraordinary joy to do. Now, walk around, look at yourself, feel what has happened, and we will join our effort together in a few minutes. Look at each other, become friendly. Nobody is really bad who has power. Look at from each other, from behind, from in front. Don't be afraid. Be afraid, but do it. Be ashamed and do it.
I came in real late,
Huh?
so I didn't get as much.